Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with a lovely box set reissue from Harmonia Mundi. It's Marc-Antoine Charpentier, all of the recordings that William Christie did back in the days before he jumped ship and moved to Erato, to the big leagues, compared to the Harmonia Mundi indie label. Well, you know, some of the best stuff he did was from Harmonia Mundi, and there's wonderful music in here. And we're going to go through it. I'll tell you what it is. It's 8 CDs. But first, I have to tell you my Charpentier horror story. We all have one, don't we? What's your Charpentier horror story? Harmonia Mundi invited me and some other folks, including my friend John and other, music people about New York, to a concert. It was in a church. It was Charpentier's sacred music. I forget who was doing it. It wasn't Christie. It wasn't Christie at all. I don't even remember who the performers were. There were like 10 singers and a conductor qua organist. And he was playing a tiny little portative organ, like with one finger. And they did some mass thing with continuo. I have never in my life been so bored. It was the dullest thing in the entire universe. Far be it from me to say that sitting on an uncomfortable seat in a cavernous church on Lexington, it was on Lexington Avenue. Thank God there was a bar across the street. That is what saved us. We hit the bar about halfway through. We didn't stay. We couldn't. It was intolerable. Absolutely intolerable. And the conductor plonked a couple. It was a continuo organ thing, and these people sang, and you couldn't hear them, and the music was uniformly slow and trudgy. It was enough to turn you off to Charpentier for the rest of your life. It really was. Happily, I already had my Charpentier and knew what I was hearing, so it wasn't so terrible, because he wrote a lot of wonderful music, but he wrote tons of music, tons and tons of music. Possibly about 500 pieces survive, and there was maybe twice that. Who knows? It's extraordinary how much music he wrote, and he wrote in every possible medium and form. He was one of the few composers after Lully and before Rameau who wrote like operas that people care about, one of them of which was Medée, which is in here, and which Christie recorded twice. Once here originally, this was his first recording, and then also on Erato. And he did some of this stuff twice, which I just think is so stupid. I really do. I mean, granted there are different singers and whatnot, but, same guy, same composers, same work, and obscure work, and 17th century opera, and I don't understand the record industry. I never will. And I don't understand the artists either, who just want to go along and compete with themselves. So here's the original stuff. And let me tell you what's in here. And let me tell you straight off that Charpentier is a wonderful composer. After my horror story, it wasn't about the music. It wasn't about it was, but it wasn't about the composer as much as it was, these performances which make such a production out of austerity. Listening to music should never be a punishment. I insist on that. There should always be joy, pleasure, sex appeal, interest. Some of these performances, they're just there, like a lump of something, a nondescript nothingness. And it doesn't do justice to either the composer or to the experience or to the audience or you name it. Anyway, so what have we got here? We have sacred music. We have Cecilia Virgo et Martyr. Yeah, Histoire Sacrée for soloist, chorus, symphony, and continuo. Symphony meaning, instruments. Really quite lovely. That little bit. It's more sort of like a cantata. And then there's the Prodigal Son, another Histoire Sacrée. These are fun. These are essentially sacred cantatas, and they're delightful, but French style, in the style of the French Baroque, which is, not quite the same thing as the Italian or German styles. Then we have his Magnificat for 3 voices, and then we have Disc 2. Disc 2 is Actéon. Now, Actéon is a pastoral in music, and it's a typical French thing where you've got where you've got, arias and choruses and little dancey things. I think this has dancey things, doesn't it? Yeah, of course it does. It has dancey things. And, and it's very, very pastoral and lovely. Then we have his Overture de la Comtesse d'Escarbagnas and Intermède Nouveau de Mariage Forcé. This is Molière stuff. Yeah. A Molière thing. It's only 6 minutes long. And then on CD3 we have Medea, the tragedy. Well, we all know that story, don't we? And this is one of the great settings of it, unquestionably. The cast for this first run through Medea was Jill Feldman as Medea, and Jacques Bonnat, and Sophie Boudin, and Philippe Cantor, and Agnès Mellon. Remember her? She's very wonderful. And Gilles Ragon as Jason. And then lots of other people as well. So we get Medea. And then we have on CD6 Le Reniement de Saint-Pierre, another Histoire Sacrée, and the Méditation pour le Carême, pardon me, a motet for 3 voices and continuo, and then CDs 7 and 8, the other opera, David and Jonathan, David et Jonathas, which is also, it's a tragedy biblique. Very lovely and very sad and very true to the story. I mean, in the generalities of it, of course, because everybody's upset. I mean, David is crowned king at the end, but Jonathan dies and Saul dies, and it's great. Everybody dies. Who matters? So there you go. There it is. The Charpentier 8-disc set. Now, you don't get the Te Deum, you don't get the Midnight Mass and some of his other famous stuff, but you do get a lot of less famous stuff, and it's a wonderful way to sort of get yourself involved in this composer and in the period, because, French music that isn't Rameau or Lully of this period is kind of, or one of those keyboard guys, one of the Couperins, that family, they all did that stuff. Or, Elisabeth Jacotet de la Guerre. Well, okay, there's a whole pile of composers that we might want to listen to from this period. But Charpentier is one of the biggies, and these were wonderful examples of the art of early music performance in its earlier stages. Nowadays, if you do these operas, the latest scholarship, has decided that you don't use a continuo harpsichord in the dance music, and, they actually use plenty of vibrato. Big surprise there. Well, you're not going to hear any of that stuff here. In fact, Christie has been criticized for bringing so much editorializing to his performances. But, I mean, does it matter? Seriously. What matters is whether or not the performances are good, the sound is good, the music's enjoyable, and the interpretations are sympathetic, and they are, and they're very bright. He's a wonderful conductor. So let's just enjoy it. Yeah, it's this guy, William Christie, with Les Arts Florissants, his Charpentier recordings for Harmonia Mundi. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.